Who are we? We're the ones who step up for each other. I've got your back. You've got mine. Kindness, humility, empathy. It's not just talk. It's who we are. It's who we always have been. And no one can take that from us. The movement to bring it back, it started here. And here. And here. In school gymnasiums, community centers, the living room down the block. You'll be where? Okay, we'll be there. Who are we? We're the movement that will beat Donald Trump. Welcome. We're going to have to sweat for it. We're going to have to sacrifice and fight. We're going to have to lead. Everyone is going to have to lead with kindness, humility, empathy, and not just talk, but action. Action today, action tomorrow. Action until we win. And we will win if we do this together. It's who we are. It's who we always have been. Now let's show them.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight for Mobilize Your Menu to get out the vote in partnership with the Biden-Harris, Colorado, and small business teams. My name is Gertie Harris, and I'm the founder of Fireside at 5. We're a community-driven programming and activation collective that works with local organizations and businesses to educate, inspire, and activate through experiential, in-person, and virtual programming. Tonight, I'm joined by 6 talented local Colorado chefs and beverage connoisseurs. We'll be discussing the pandemic's impact on small businesses and restaurants, the importance of good food supply chains, and lastly, the voting issues that are most important to our panelists right now. Our fireside chats are meant to be collaborative, solution-driven, and engaging, and we look forward to doing just that on our chat this evening. Thank you again to the Biden-Harris, Colorado, and small business teams for helping organize this important panel, and to all of our incredible panelists who are determined to help spread the word about the importance of getting out the vote. Thank you again to everyone who's tuning in tonight. We're going to get started with some introductions. First up, Tajahi Cooke, please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you felt motivated to join the panel tonight.
Yes, hi. Hello, everyone. Tajahi Cooke from Kingston, Jamaica, and chef and owner of Miss Betty's Cooking. Currently chef consultant for the IE Hospitality Group, working over at Bruto with amazing Kelly Wood. My inspiration for joining this group today is to give chefs an opportunity to speak. As chefs and owners, we've always been leaders in the community and always have held our opinions back. And being investors in the community, I believe that we're one of the individuals who need to be vocal. So here I am.
Thanks for joining, Taj. Jesucio Silva, I'm going to pass that question over to you next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jesus Silva, and a chef for Misaki and the Broadway Market. Very happy to be here and have a little voice for the Latino community right now and be ready for this big task.
Thanks for joining. Caroline Glover, you're up.
Oh, I gotta unmute faster. Hi, I'm Caroline, and I own Annette. This election is super important for me personally and for my small business. I think that there's a lot on the line, and I think of the hospitality industry in general as a linchpin. We employ a lot of different types of people. I think a lot of our livelihoods are on the line, from business owners to all my employees to a lot of my vendors. So it was important for me, and it's always been important to be transparent and speak up for what I feel is right.
Well, we appreciate your perspective, so thank you for joining. Sean Kenyon.
Hi, I'm Sean Kenyon. I am the bartender proprietor of Williams & Graham, Occidental, and American Bonded here in Denver. I'm here because I want to give voice to the people who work in our community and the people who are kind of underrepresented in the current administration. And I want, I think it's the most important election of our lifetime, and I want to do as much as I can to be vocal about getting out the vote.
Well, thank you for joining. Angela Neri.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Neri. I own Pony Up downtown. It's a bar and a restaurant. I also consult for other chefs and owners and help with their openings in Denver and across the country. I wanted to be involved tonight because it's very important what's going on right now, what's been going on for the past since March. And it's affected all of us, I think, more than we ever thought it would affect us. And I think we have a huge responsibility as leaders in the community to voice what we know and what we're dealing with every day. So I'm hoping I can shed some light on the bar side of things too, and what we're dealing with as bar owners that have late night spots, that have downtown spots, that have locations and businesses, small businesses that are brand new and that are being affected greatly by everything that's going on.
Thanks for joining us this evening. Lastly, Kelly Whitaker.
Hi, everyone. Proud to be here tonight with all of you. It's an amazing group of individuals representing Denver, so thank you for having me. I'm own a few restaurants, the Wolf's Taylor, Basta, Dry Storage, and Bruto. I'm very interested in this ongoing conversation about growth and change and where are we going next. And I believe that the work that we do today is going to greatly affect tomorrow for Colorado. During the shutdown, we have started we finally started our grain mill. So I've been working with a lot of farmers throughout Colorado. We're currently working on about 200 to 300 acres with several farmers on the grain supply chain. So I'm interested in speaking about that as well. But thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So now that we've gone through introductions, we are going to jump into our discussion questions. So like I mentioned at the beginning, these chats are supposed to be collaborative. So I encourage all of our panelists to jump in whenever you feel inclined. Our first question tonight is, the hospitality industry has been severely impacted by COVID. The Independent Restaurant Coalition reported on Tuesday of this week that accommodation and food services sector received just 8.1% of Paycheck Protection Program dollars, despite restaurants contributing to nearly a quarter of all lost jobs during the pandemic, more than any industry. So I ask all of you, how have each of your businesses been impacted by the pandemic, and what major shifts and changes have you had to make to your business models? I'm going to toss this one to Kelly to start off, and then feel free to chime in.
Yeah, so many changes, pivots, or as I like to think of, adaptations. We've moved all of our businesses in different directions. We were recipients of part of that CARES Act, of the PPP funding. It did allow us to sort of rethink our labor model and rethink our service model, and buy a little bit of time to sort of reset. But, currently, obviously, we're thinking about safety foremost with our employees and our teams. And, with that, I sort of agree with the pace that we've been going at to sort of retool our business while keeping everyone safe. I will, well, what else? Is there anything else you'd like to probe me on that one?
Well, I mean, I guess, we could talk a little bit about the ways that you've pivoted Bruto. I know Taj is also on this panel, so I'd love to hear about how the Advocacy Kitchen kind of came to fruition and where you see that going in the new year.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Bruto was one of our most struggling businesses. It was downtown. And so we were dealing with the COVID shutdown. After that, we were dealing with, the businesses leaving downtown, and then it sort of became the meeting place for a lot of the protests, which then turned to a meeting place for the police. So it just kind of kept going. And as I was thinking about downtown Denver and it coming back online, and I had been fortunate to be in a situation there where I had a landlord that was supportive of whatever we wanted to do. And I just found that a lot of my chefs, or not my chefs, a lot of chefs in general were speaking out on social media and across the board about different issues. And I said, I don't even know where I stand with all the issues. I just felt like that there was a voices that needed to be heard. So Taj, that's on today, he can talk a little bit about it as well. But Taj was one of the vocal ones, and I met him for a coffee where I'm at today at Dry Storage. And I just said, I have a kitchen. I don't know exactly what I want to do with it, but I feel like right now I need to be involved until election day, specifically to voice out whatever it is that we care about. So we got in conversations with Taj about farmers, supply chain, Colorado farmers, Black chefs. I mean, everything that, wasn't necessarily my world, but I wanted to learn about. And then Chef Michael, who was a chef from El Paso that moved to Denver, that was having this sort of whole different look at what it was like to sort of live on a border town. And with the mass shooting in El Paso last year, this is a chef I'd never met, but just totally blew me away with where he was coming from, what he wanted to speak through as food right now. We had a closure of, or I guess a shift of a food hall here in Boulder, Colorado, around at Rosetta, and a lot of the leases ended, and it was sort of an owner's pivoting his business. And Chef Modu is a chef, West African chef that came in, and again, just telling so much through the story of his food. And it just sort of, all we did was provide the space. And I started working with Taj right away, and he was in between. And I was like, Taj, do you want this kitchen? Do you want to just make it your home for a while? But it's been incredibly inspiring hearing the stories and how much food can send a message of exactly where we are today.
To add on that, I think that the fact of the matter is the decision and the route that Kelly took, many owners would not have gone that route. It was a lot of trust that was put in, but it was all because of the community. Everything was just based around connecting people through the food supply chain and showing them what us chefs have to do and what we have to say. There's just so much that's been going on right now, and the opportunities that are coming along are very limited. So opportunities like that, where you can utilize a pedestal as Bruto to vocalize a message of what we're trying to broadcast, I think is fantastic. It's amazing, to be very honest with you. But yeah, this advocacy kitchen is based all around community, the message of the chef, and just putting trust back into the community. And I think it's beautiful to see how it's worked out, to be very real, very real.
Well, thank you both for sharing. I'd love to send this question over to Caroline. When we were jumping on this panel earlier, we were discussing kind of these greenhouses that you guys have put out, I think, at Annette. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about how you guys have pivoted your operations and how you're gearing up for winter.
Yeah, so I guess we have 50% of staff right now from pre-COVID, but we're a super small restaurant, and it's what makes sense. So I think, a big part of the pivot was, instead of having a lot of part-time servers, which is what we would usually have in back of the house would be full-time, we wanted full-time servers. Part of that is a safety issue. We wanted everybody to feel comfortable and feel like we were all working in the same pod. And we kind of made a commitment to each other that we were going to be safe and be careful and come to work, go home. That's kind of the big shift that we've made. And that's been, I think it's been great, but it's also been a huge commitment from me and from them as well. And I recognize that. I think the other part of it is, we have these outdoor greenhouses. So we're super lucky that we're in an area that has a lot of outdoor space, and our landlords have been very willing to let us do whatever we need to do. And the city of Aurora has been above and beyond for us. So I think when we have all those things working for us, that's incredible. I don't think everybody has that privilege. And but for winter, so we've done these greenhouses, and it's taken oh my God, every spare moment we've had, at least since June. I don't know what free time is anymore since COVID hit, but thousands of dollars, it's this, we're getting to this point where I'm thinking, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to break even? Are we trying to make a profit? And so we really had to dig deep and think, what's our purpose? Why are we doing this? And ultimately, it's to keep employing people. It's to keep our vendors employed, to keep our linen guys employed. With the restaurant industry, 90 cents of every dollar that comes in goes right back out the door. And that, I feel like that's one of those numbers that you have to let sink in. We provide so much for our community, that kind of became our reason. We needed a reason to keep going. And so these greenhouses, they're great. And I'm super happy that we have them. Adams County, which is where we're located, just went down to 25% capacity indoors effective on Wednesday. So, things aren't going in the right direction. And I think we knew that was going to happen. So these greenhouses are allowing us to continue to seat people, do it in a safe way, and keep our staff coming in, and keep, the people that we get product from in business.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that you mentioned is the margins. They're just so slim right now. And I think, on top of restaurants being severely impacted by those margins, bars are really taking a hit as well. So I'd love to hear from Sean and Angela specifically about what you guys are doing in both of your bars.
Yeah, I mean, the margins in our business have always been slim, and COVID just pushes that to a more dire space. We had at one of my bars, Occidental, we had a food truck out back, and we sold it at the beginning of the shutdown and cleared the space and had to build an outdoor patio, which took some money to be able to do it. We were able to take some of the money from the food truck and add some more money to that, but we were able to give ourselves some space for the summer, which was amazing. Also, like Caroline, we brought about 50% of our staff back, and we also made a pact together to stay as kind of our own bubble, like straight from work, straight to home, not mixing outside of work with people we don't work with, or people that we know we're not sure of where they've been, just so we can stay safe and stay open. So we've been lucky enough not to have any outbreaks in the time that we've been reopened, which is since mid-June. But the outdoor spaces is gone away for us. I mean, now we have snow today. So, and in that time we've run out of the PPP money that we used to be able to stay open. And now, I mean, we're week to week, and that's the scariest thing for all of us, for our staff, for us. Like what we've had to do besides being 50%. I mean, I know Angela and I we're working the doors at our own bars, and we're taking on bigger roles as owners within our staffs, so that we don't have to spend that money on payroll, so that we can stay open and keep our businesses going. It's a frightening time. I know people in our business there's a great combination of tenacity and creativity, and I know that we've all found ways to adapt, as Kelly said, pivoting somewhat, but really kind of adapting to where we're at. And a lot of it's taken staffing down and because we're dealing with, the reality of being about 25 to 40% of occupancy in Denver County. I mean, with the distancing for us, we're about 40% occupancy. So, that's 40% of revenue, that's 40% of staff, that's everything down. So if you're making 10 cents on $20,000, now you're making 10 cents on $10,000, or whatever your dollar amount is, which is tough for all of us. But, I understand where we're going, and I'm perfectly willing to be part of the solution as far as keeping everyone safe. It's just, we need a plan from our government. We need a coordinated plan so that not only do we know how to operate, but our guests and the people who come in have a clear way, have a clear knowledge of how they're supposed to operate, or how they're supposed to be when they come visit us.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that we have found is, I think Sean and I have talked about it a bunch, is that we have to work our doors ourselves. I don't want to put my staff at risk or have them have to deal with someone who doesn't want to follow the rules. It's been different in bars, I think, just because people do, to drink heavily, and Caroline got some of that today for brunch. It sounds like. So we're all dealing with that, and so I think myself and Sean, I know in the beginning started closing at midnight no matter what. We weren't going to stay open until 2. We weren't going to risk it. But then when it hit and it was 10 o'clock, for a business, my business that is usually open until 2 o'clock, or I was choosing to be open until midnight and serving food until midnight, and then losing those 2 hours, it was everything. We lost 75% of our revenue for one decision that was made for us. And so it's been trying to pivot since then, and trying to activate Mondays and Tuesdays, which were normally closed, activate those days, bring in chefs. Kelly's doing it at Bruto. We've been doing it at Pony Up, trying to have activations so that people will want to come downtown. I think that's been the biggest struggle, is we're not in a neighborhood. People want to stay close to home right now, and Denver or downtown is just not as activated as it was. So we just have to be creative, and pop-ups is really what we've been doing on Mondays and Tuesdays to make up for the loss of revenue late night. So.
Yeah, no, you mentioned, kind of the traction downtown, and I want to throw this over to Jesusio. I know Misaki on Broadway, you guys are located in a huge food hall. I'm sure you've seen some of those businesses had to close down. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you've pivoted. I've done a lot of research. I know you guys bring in a lot of food from outside of Colorado, a lot of fresh fish and oysters. And so tell us a little bit about how you've been impacted, and then you can kind of segue us into our next question about the food supply chain as well.
Right. Well, at the beginning, we applied for the PPP and we get the grant. We keep all our people employed. Even when we have to close for a month and a half, we keep everybody on payroll until, we open back, and we've been slow. I mean, downtown is half dead right now. We've been trying to bring more people in the place. But the reality here is what we need to see is that we don't have any plan. I mean, the federal way, we don't have plan. And the problem is everybody thinking in different ways. Everybody's, if you have people coming from a different state, they have a different way to think. And that's affecting us big time. And that's because we don't have a federal plan. We don't have something, we're not following a line. We should be going in a different, the whole country should be going the same direction. And that's the problem we have here. I mean, sometimes, like, look what Caroline is doing. It's amazing. Like, it's a lot of people in the country should be doing the same thing, but then you have people who doesn't care what she's doing, right? And that's where this whole thing get bad. I mean, we need real leadership. We need a plan, and we need to come out of this hole all together. It's hard. Just I give you a little example. We get a exposure on Thursday. I was trying to get tests Thursday. We went to 4 different places. It's hard to get an appointment. It's just ridiculous. I mean, this is America, guys. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm from Mexico. I would say, this is normal, right? If I was in Mexico, but this is America. This is the best country of the world. And we're going through this. And that's, I think, what is the biggest problem. We don't have a real leadership. And I think that's why we need to look at a new leadership. And that's why we're doing this with this campaign, I guess. And that's why we're sitting here all together. So, yeah, I hope we come out of this.
I just wanted to add one question that keeps running through my mind, is that how do you save lives without killing livelihood? That's really one question that I had to ask myself when I was the executive chef over at Bijou's Little Curry Shop before we had to close up in February. How do you save lives without killing livelihood? And what I saw was, I saw something that was coming, and we had to make a decision. The numbers didn't add up, and we had to go a certain route. But there are ways to pivot, and Caroline Glover has taken a fantastic way. I think it's amazing, and even Kelly, what he's doing right now. I know he hasn't announced it, but in the back of Wolf, everyone, all these great chefs are thinking of amazing ways to pivot during these difficult times. So yeah, that's the question that keeps running through my brain.
And Taj, I want to throw this back to you as well, just because we've had a lot of conversations lately about the importance of the food supply chain. I'd love to hear how you're sourcing your ingredients right now, and why it's really crucial to be sourcing from local distributors and farmers. And this goes for everyone, but let's start with Taj.
Well, after closing up Little Curry Shop, I had a long time to sit back and just sit and watch everything that was going on. I watched Chef Jesus over at Broadway. I've watched Caroline over at Annette. Angela over at Pony Up. I've watched Williams and Graham and Wolf, and I've just sat back and just observed. One of the biggest issues for me right now is that I think we need to support locally, support our local farmers, support our local growers, support our local distillers, brewers, everyone as much as possible. If we can keep money trading within the community, we can keep money within the community. And that's where my mindset has been. I have been doing business with Miller Farms now for years, going on 5 years. Melissa and Joe Miller, they've been around since 1949. That's just shows the strength of a community. It shows what a community can do. So yeah, I've been sourcing locally, and I think that if we focus more on sourcing locally and focusing on supporting each other, we can make sure that we're here tomorrow and next year. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things right now. And to add on that, what we're doing over at Bruto at the Advocacy Kitchen, I just finished up 4 ITAL dinners, and each dinner was paired with a farm. Whether it was Acres Farm with Joshua Olson, Lost Creek Farm with Chris Starkis, Rebel Farms with Lauren over there, or even with Miller Farms and Mobetta Farms with Beverly Grant. I think right now, any form of awareness that we can bring to our local providers, it can definitely fix the food supply chain in a major way within the communities, that is.
I'd love to pass that one as well over to Caroline. I know you guys source a lot of local ingredients, so I'd love to hear about how you guys have continued to support your distributors and farmers.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, when the pandemic hit, there was a part of me that wanted to stop for a couple of weeks and catch my breath and figure out what was next. And I paid, so we had a bunch of invoices the day the shutdown happened, and I ended up paying, we paid all of them, and I got a text from one of my vendors, and he was crying and said, "I cannot believe you just paid all these invoices. This is not what I expected. I have 2 kids." And I think that made me stop and say, I'm not going to stop. If I am not ordering from these people, even though I'm a super small restaurant, every single bit helps. And I think, it became even more apparent during the pandemic. I think a lot of consumers, CSAs filled up like crazy. And I think that's a beautiful thing. A lot of people who weren't buying locally started buying locally. But we have a CSA with Delaney Community Farms, and they had 10 restaurants, and we were the only ones that stayed on because we were open at the time. And, talking to Chris, the farm manager there, saying, you guys don't have to do this. We can give you your money back. This is like very unprecedented. And to have a farmer say that, like a CSA is to set yourself up for success. You take money at a certain time of the year when you need it, and then you provide a service. And for him to say, I will gladly give you your money back. It reminded me of how giving our farmers are and how giving our vendors are, and how important they are in our community. And I think, you know, our linen guy, he's not local, but it's a big company, but he eats at the restaurant every single Sunday with his wife. And not getting to see him because I'm insane and we washed our own towels for the first 2 months of the pandemic because I just didn't know what was going to happen. Getting to see him come back after 2 months, we both had tears in our eyes, you know, just he was happy that we were still there. I was happy that he was still there. So I think, you know, having that, it's all part of community. And I think that this pandemic, I think we've always felt that way with our vendors and our farmers, but this pandemic just sealed it for us that we're here for them and they're here for us. And that's the way it works.
Absolutely. Kelly, I want to bring this over to you as well, because, you know, during this pandemic, you guys you opened a grain mill and you started selling flour and grains to people that were in town. Have you guys seen a lot of local support from the people in the community?
Yeah, we're starting to, you know, I was really struggling with how to approach chefs right now. Being like, hey, this is going to be a more expensive product, but it's doing a lot of good. And it just didn't feel right to me. So I opened the company with an open letter that just said, because I didn't know how, you know, I didn't know how to like make a sales call because I'm a cook. But, you know, I said, I'm working at Wolf's every night right now to fight for my restaurant. I'm not even buying all the flour from my own mill. I feel like, you know, I'm in it. And so it's kind of an interesting proposition to do and to try to understand that side of things right now as a supplier and not just a cook. But slowly, you know, we're doing a little bit more business every day. There were a couple of local Boulder chefs that really latched on, and you know, they loved it and they loved the idea of supporting it right now, especially in a time like this. But I'll say this, like given the current, you know, the two things, one, this, you know, really exposed, like Caroline mentioned briefly, a lot of problems with our food supply chain, and our work, you know, I felt like we were starting to see some light, a lot of good organizations posting up in Denver, companies like Patagonia, North Face, just others moving in, seeing this as an opportunity to be an example for the rest of the country on what a community can do around sustainability and local. So we have a new ag director, Kate Greenberg, here in Colorado. I'm really excited because she's been really listening to people and also sort of finding the diverse pockets of farmers out there and really kind of looking to the deeper story of not just farming and supply chain, but mental health of our farmers. And it's just a huge conversation that we're engaged in. We started a nonprofit years ago now called Noble Grain Alliance. And, you know, it's one of our positions is food insecurity, and then really understanding those side of things versus like, hey, we're going to push the grain thing forward. We're really going to start looking at some of the deeper issues. And as I got further into it, I was like, oh man, what are we actually fighting for right now? And so, like I said, given where we're at now and the opportunity that presents itself in Colorado going forward, I feel like with the right type of leadership and the right, you know, the right direction, one of the reasons, you know, again, I'm on the call today is to support this movement. Otherwise, I'd feel like, you know, my job is to be really sort of one of service. I just want to serve people. I want to take care of people. I really don't care where you're from. I don't care what your political background is. I really just want to take care of people. That's how I've been trained to be a chef for all people. And I will continue that for the rest of my life. I'm highly committed to it. But right now, you know, being vocal about this and seeing it from both sides and then understanding the opportunity we have in Colorado, it's incredible. We're working with an organization out of San Francisco called Zero Foodprint. I would encourage everybody to look them up too with Anthony Mint. I know Caroline's been a great supporter of Anthony's, and it's just been really interesting to talk and have conversations with him on the role and responsibilities a restaurant can take towards climate change. And these are all just, like I said, he's based in San Francisco, trying to get it to jump off. And really it was Boulder community that said, hey, whatever you're doing that programming, let's move it out here and give it a shot. So it's actually gaining more ground in Colorado than it is in Northern California right now. Really exciting to watch. But, you know, with the supply chain, I feel like it is our time to act. It is an opportunity to act, and it could speak years ahead for our rural farmers in Colorado, and the food they produce for sure. There's a lot of good food here, but outside of that, we have a job to do to protect our farmers and be vocal about it.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned climate change, the overall health and well-being of, customers, and making sure that there's not a ton of food insecurity for people out there. So I'd love to open this up to the group. Sean, Angela, Jesucio, let's start with you guys on this. But, I'm sure you guys have been talking to a bunch of other chefs, small business owners, and community members about what issues are affecting them the most right now. So I'd love to hear from you guys about what are the most important issues on the ballot right now for chefs and small business owners, specifically you guys.
I'll chime in on that. Really, I think knowing who is a supporter of the IRC, the Independent Restaurant Coalition, and who actually knows about it and speaks about it, and whoever is supporting the Restaurant Act right now, and will do whatever they can to get that act passed, and making sure that, I think that was my biggest goal during my, going through my ballot, was just making sure I knew who was in support, or who would be in support if they, ended up taking on a role, and bringing that to light. So.
Yeah, I think we need somebody who support the healthcare for all right now. Like I say, we have a lot of our co-workers, people who work for us, or people who work right next to us in the next restaurant or next bar and everywhere. And it doesn't have, a lot of people don't have a healthcare coverage, which is, again, I have to say this, and I have to say it many times, because it's okay to happen in a country like us sometimes, and it's not okay. But this America, we should be all covered. Right now, I have thanks to my wife and my own work too, I have a very good healthcare. But it's kind of ridiculous the amount of money we spend on it. And even with this type of healthcare we have, like, again, just to give an example, last week I have a little emergency with my son. We have to spend a lot of money, and we've been covered by healthcare. That's ridiculous. Again, I have to say it again. This America, wake up, Americans, go vote. Come out of there. And yeah, I mean, we need people like that to help us. We need politicians to take care of us too, because we have to, we work really hard every day, and if we don't have the support from the government, it's not much sometimes that we can really do by ourselves too. So.
And Jesucio, you represent the Latinx population and the immigrant population. What would you say directly to those voters who are undecided right now?
Well, don't forget about many things. Like when this pandemic started, my community don't have a chance to, a lot of them don't have a chance to apply for a lot of the stimulus checks and a lot of those things. People have to be at work, and has to be exposed every single day for this. And it's not because they want to be there working. They want to take care of their family too. They have to stay paying the rent. They don't have help from the government. So yes, it's been hard for our community. I mean, every community right now is being affected. This is, like I say, and like Joe Biden want to do, is become one. This is about unity. The country is being so divided, and things that doesn't make any sense for me. Like I say, I seen this in Central America with guerrillas and all this, and I can't believe this happened here. Like, people, come out of there. This is not right.
I agree. It's quite astounding. Seriously. Right. Yeah, it is. And it's scary at times too, to not know what the next 9 days are going to hold for us. Right. Sean, I'm going to pass this question over to you. I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on what issues are most important on the ballot for you.
For us, I mean, we all own small businesses, and I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but getting PPP money was very difficult for us. It took us at least 2 weeks to even know if we could get it. The parameters were really difficult, and the way I look at for our current administration looks at Wall Street as the economic driver of America. And if the stock market's doing well, in their minds, the country is doing well. I don't know anybody in our employ or anybody that we work with that cares about the stock market even a little bit, except for maybe where their 401ks are or something of the sort. But not a lot of people in the restaurant industry have that. Universal healthcare and having that be important. My wife has MS, and so therefore has a pre-existing condition, and so we had to take ourselves, even in the current healthcare system that we had to take ourselves off of the group for our restaurant. Otherwise, the price went way up for us. We have our own private health insurance that we had to buy, so we weren't on our restaurant group. We need leadership that cares about the everyday person, and not about the huge chain restaurants. Those things have their places, but we all have individual spaces, and we have small business worries, and we take care of our local communities, right? And that, to me, we need support, not only to survive the winter. A lot of us need support to survive the winter, but ongoing with healthcare and knowing where our challenges are, and caring about the little guy, even a little bit. I haven't seen any of that in the last 4 years, besides what's happened in the last 7 months. So I didn't expect compassion or leadership to come from our current administration when this all happened. So I was unfortunately not surprised by how little leadership we've gotten over the past 7 months since our shutdown. We got shut down first here in Denver on the 15th or 16th of March. We were closed down for 9 weeks and reopened in the middle of June, and been fighting every day since. And we need leadership that cares about us.
I couldn't agree more. I think, it sounds crazy to say this, but it would be amazing to have a leader with some empathy, like a little basic respect for the people in this country. Before we, right?
Just hearing Barack Obama speaking today and speaking for Joe Biden, it was just such a breath of fresh air to who spoke with empathy and passion and in complete sentences on it.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the next question, I want to ask Taj, Kelly, and Caroline, do you guys have any comments on what issues matter most to you on the ballot this year?
I just wanted to add, with restaurants with a profit margin of 5 to 10%, restaurants don't really have that much cash flow, and the help that we're seeing right now it's none. So with Biden-Harris and their bill that they're trying to get through, and their plan that they're trying to get through to Congress, I think that it's an amazing opportunity for us to finally get help. For example, I had to close up my restaurant back in February. So I just believe that who we elect is most important. And as Angela said, we need to focus on the individuals who support the IRC. To be very honest, those are the individuals that we need to look at. We need to pay attention to who we vote for, and we need to make sure that we vote, period. That's it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with, what everybody had to say. I was kind of thinking about my list of what I'm looking for in a leader, especially everything we've gone through. And I feel like everybody hit on it. COVID response is huge. Supporting the Restaurants Act. I've been on the leadership team with the IRC for the past 7 months. So, we've spent 3 mornings a week for the past 7 months talking about what this industry needs. And I think we've had a lot of incredible support, and we need more. And what Jesus was saying, immigration reform is huge. That's a lot of our employees, and a lot of them that are contributing to, benefits, and they can't receive them and didn't receive them whenever the shutdown happened. And that was really, really hard to see happen. And we knew it would happen, but to have people that work for me and contribute to not only financially, but in the workplace, not be able to receive benefits is a huge issue. And I just wanted to piggyback on healthcare. I think childcare is also a huge part of that. We shouldn't be the only industry that can't figure out how to have kids or take care of children given our hours and our wages. I think that childcare is something that needs to be a part of our industry, along with healthcare. And Kelly already hit on, climate change. I mean, that's climate change, especially in Colorado, what we've seen in the past couple of weeks. And this is not, this happens every single year. We need somebody that believes in climate change. We need somebody that believes in science, because it's not only affecting our environment, it's affecting our farmers, it's affecting our food chain. And if we don't have those, then we don't have a restaurant. So it doesn't matter what happens to us if we can't take care of our environment and our earth.
Yeah, I mean, climate change is an existential crisis, so it would be great to have a leader that treats it as such. Kelly, I'm going to send it over to you, and then I'm going to move on to one of our last questions of the panel.
No, I think we can move on. I rarely have anything to say after Caroline speaks. She really, I have 2 children that we're homeschooling right now. It's been a total shift in our world, and but going through just the motions of having the kids, and I just love that you spoke to that, Caroline. And obviously, we don't understand what the greatest threat is. Is it COVID? Is it climate change? But having someone that believes in both, I think both things are real right now, would be helpful to getting on the right path, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Well, all right. So one of my second to last questions is, going back to kind of talking about the Independent Restaurant Coalition, the IRC, they're currently pushing for the passage of $120 billion restaurant revitalization fund. That's billion, 120 billion. So this would create a fund for small establishments that have been impacted by the pandemic, and the Restaurants Act, from which the program is derived, has the bipartisan of 209 House members and 40 senators. Many restaurants that make up the IRC are saying that they cannot afford 5 or 6 more weeks of decreased revenue, more debt, and uncertainty about colder weather. And the Restaurant Revitalization Fund would decrease unemployment by up to 2.3% and help protect the livelihoods of over 11 million Americans. So why is it so important to have a president like Biden in charge who supports small businesses and independent restaurants across the country? And what is at risk for the independent restaurant industry if we do not have, a president that supports this bill? What does it look like in Denver going forward?
Well, we not just need to win the presidency too. We need to go and get more senators on board. And that's very important too. It's not just about get Biden there, but we have to push for senators to support these things, right? And we know the ones we're not doing it too. So we need to tell the ones that are not doing it to do their job and get out of here, because we need to keep working. We need to keep doing our thing. If they don't want to support us, they got to fuck out of here. I'm sorry, my friends, but we need real leaderships, and that's, I think, is one of the other things here. We need senators to support us too, besides Biden.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quickly. I think it's incredible how many signatures the bill has already gotten. It's both lines, it's not just one political party. A lot from both sides have signed it. But the fact that it hasn't passed yet, being a small business, is one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. Because I think I already talked about it, but we employ so many people. We are a linchpin. We put out more than we take in. I think that it's so important to see that. Yes, we're small businesses, but we have a huge impact. We provide so much to our economy. And so I think it's frustrating to see an administration that is solely focused on larger corporations. Because all of us make up a really, really large part of our economy, and it's being overlooked. And I think that that's insane to me, that is happening right now. And this administration is not seeing the bigger picture of what this industry does and who it provides for, and who it employs. So, I mean, I know a lot of restaurants aren't going to survive without it, a lot. And I think it's going to take a little bit to see the full effect of it. But I think once it starts, it's going to be hard to stop. And so, kind of seeing that, and seeing the future, we can't afford to just sit around and wait. I think we've all been working really, really hard pushing for this, and it kind of feels like we're screaming into this, abyss. This administration holds the power to help us survive, and they aren't executing it.
If you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Go ahead.
No, Angela, go ahead, though, and I apologize.
Just to piggyback on that, it's, as a small business owner who applied for as many grants as possible, but didn't get grants and had to get, loans, whether it be the EIDL or the PPP. Those were loans, and we know that they're all loans, and it's pretty terrifying as a young new business owner to take on that much debt. So at the same time, seeing large corporations or airlines already getting their grants and already getting money and support. So like Caroline said, I have friends who have already shut their doors, and we're going to continue to see that. It's pretty terrifying. It is going to be a snowball effect. I did get grants I did get loans, so I'm feeling okay right now, but I won't be in a year. I won't be next year, especially if downtown doesn't have any flow again, and there's no baseball again. And that crushes anyone who's close by the ballpark. So we're looking, I know that I'm looking past until April. So I definitely need, a grant, not more loans.
I just wanted to add one thing. I was listening to a podcast earlier today by an individual who owns a construction company that builds restaurants. And he was referring to basically just going back in time. The first buildings that were built were a place of worship. The second buildings that were built was either a tavern or a place to eat. So if we don't support our restaurants, if we don't support our watering holes, what are we going to have? Where are we going to go celebrate? Where are we going to go mourn a little bit and have a drink afterwards, or smile and celebrate? So I just think that right now the IRC, the Restaurant Act, is one of the most important things that we need to focus on right now. Honestly, we need to get behind. We need to make sure that we push this and really try to get it through, because we want to make sure that we have a net. We want to make sure that we have Williams and Graham and Pony Up and the Kelly Whitakers of the world, and the host, the Jesus of the world, still flowing into the years to come. Honestly, this is what we need. So yeah, we definitely need to get behind this.
Before I move on to our final question, does anyone else want to contribute anything?
Yeah, I just want to say I want to piggyback on what Tajahi said, is that, bars and restaurants have been the centers of our communities for years, for hundreds of years. And thinking about a world with so many less of them, and maybe so less independent restaurants leaves for less character. You're looking at the big chain restaurants backed by venture capitalists and bankers that are able to survive because they have deep pockets. We're not those people. If the only way we get to survive is by taking out more loans and putting ourselves in more debt, then our futures are in jeopardy. The community's futures are in jeopardy, and it just seems like a less happy world and community without the group here, and without the what we've put into Denver. And think about all the places that we represent, and we're only a very small part of the Denver community. Think about us being gone, and what's left are the big national chains and and people that can afford to be open, and the people that can, you know, move assets around to be able. I mean, they're struggling too. Don't get me wrong, but they have the backing behind them to be able to stay alive. And for us, that's fighting every day, and that it takes a lot for us to stay open. And you know, we need that support. We need the IRC. We need that bill to happen. You know, or you'll see at least half of us on this call not be able to survive, and that's not great.
Well, I'm going to bring us to our closing question, and I'd love to hear from each panelist for this one. So it's kind of a two-parter, but what's motivating you to get to the ballot box this year, and what's your final message to people who are at home who have not yet voted and are maybe undecided? What are you saying to them before we get off this panel?
Yeah, I need to get on the road here, but so I'd love to jump in. You know, right now, this is an election. It seems a little daunting. It seems a little scary, but the change still falls back on the people. And no matter what the outcome, you know, it's going to be up to us to continue to lead like we have been, and just commending everyone in the hospitality industry and the food supply chain right now, just lifting them up as much as possible is our responsibility as a community. And so, but very motivated to speak and be vocal about this right now, about the two different directions. But again, whatever that happens, it's gonna fall back on us either way. But you know, there is a good future for Colorado. There's a lot of hope here. There's a lot of optimism, and but without the things we mentioned today, the Restaurant Act, climate change, so many things are on the ballot. And that's why I think Sean said this is maybe he views this one of the most important of all time. I don't totally disagree with that. This is an important election, lots on the ballot, and for people in food, hospitality, and small business across the board, it's what makes it so divisive. But I just want to always end with a message of hope. Taj has been teaching me a lot about ITAL is vital, which is a lot of good. So I've been hanging out with some amazing chefs and with some amazing stories and watching some amazing creativity. So a lot of hope still out there, regardless. But thanks for having me today, and super proud to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you as well. Let's send this over to Jesusio. What is your closing message for undecided voters or people who have not yet voted yet?
Well, go vote. This is important. Not just for yourself. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about your family. And when I say your family, it's your community, the people who surround you, the people depends on you, the people who's watching you every day. It's a lot of people watching you, what you're doing all the time. And I'm talking about in general, it's not, we are leaders. We are all leaders in these communities. And I'm not talking about us only. I'm talking about everybody around. Everybody's watching each other, and we need to go out. We need to do our best. We need to think about what is best for not just for ourselves, but for our neighbor, for the people right next to us, for everybody, or dishwashers, or prep cooks, or everybody. Think about everybody else before you, and go and vote and do it right, and do whatever you can to make this world better, starting with our community.
Thank you. Caroline.
I'm just going to piggyback off of Jesus. I mean, I think what motivates me specifically right now is voting for people who maybe can't or who don't have a say, voting for employees' rights, and voting for our community. It's not just about me. It's not just about the business. It's about what we want to see. And I think, specifically what I've seen over the past 4 years is toxic. And I want somebody to lead our country, to unify it. And I think that motivates me. And on top of that, the local, if you haven't filled out your ballot in Denver, I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot on the ballot. And it's all so important, and it's not to be skipped. You know, federal government is important, but local is huge. And so I think seeing what's on the ballot and what it can do for our community is so important. And you know, I think that there are, you know, people saying, oh, it's lesser of two evils. I mean, first of all, I don't feel that way at all, but also, you know, it starts at the bottom. It starts with local. It's, you build what you want. And I think sometimes people get discouraged by thinking their votes don't count. And I never feel that way. One of my dishwashers just voted in the presidential debate for the first time, and it was exciting. It was exciting to see him put pen to the paper and say, you know, I'm excited. I want this change. I want this to happen. And so I think it's important to recognize that as discouraging as it feels, we do have a say, we do have a voice, but it won't be heard unless we vote.
I would have to say that what's motivating me, and I think probably all of us on this panel, is that we've been more divided in the past 4 years than I've ever seen ever in the history, or I mean, since I've been around. So how divided everyone is and how divided our guests are, even, we can see it in our own guests. And that's sometimes, you know, scary to deal with when you don't know exactly who's going to be walking into your restaurant, and not, you know, and seeing more fear in people recently than ever before as well. And, you know, since March, because there's so much that's unknown. And I think there's not enough transparency and there's not a plan. So I think, you know, having a family in my employees is a huge thing. I have, you know, half of the employees that I had before March. But I look at all of those employees and I worry for them because they're more scared than they've ever been. And they don't feel like they have a leader and they don't feel like they have a plan. There's too many unknowns. And even friends who own small businesses, all of us on this call, we don't know, and there's nothing, like Kelly said, he wants, you know, there's hope for sure. But I think that there's definitely more hope if people vote for change.
Yeah, spot on. Sean and Taj.
So I just wanted to piggyback. I love that word. It's used so much, and it just shows the like-mindedness of the individuals on this call. And I honestly believe the individuals in the community, to be very honest with you, with the amount of conversations that I've had with friends who've had to close their establishments or sell their establishments. You know, I just feel that right now voting is one of the most important thing ever. I just became an American citizen 4 years ago. I voted in my first election when Donald Trump. Yeah, I believe that it's more important than ever. I never thought that I would find myself doing anything like this. But I'm proud to see where we are right now as a community. I feel that we are going to get something great out of this. And I truly believe that we can get somewhere, honestly. I really do. I really do. My grandfather used to say it best. I've been preaching this over and over. One hand can't clap. One wing cannot fly. And without that, we can't take flight. So for us to get to new heights and to get above all of everything that we're going through right now, we need to start clapping together. We need to start flapping together so we can take flight. So get out and vote. Sean, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
No, you didn't at all, and I appreciate your sentiment. I had a very conservative friend asked me a couple of years ago, how come so many people in our community they lean liberal? And I think my answer to that was because we see the human experience every day. We connect with our communities every day. Everything that we do in hospitality is rooted in compassion, right? Is rooted in empathy. And besides policy decisions, besides anything else, the overarching thing to me in this election is to regain humanity within our government, right? To see a government that has empathy for its citizens. And that's really that's what's important to me. It's the most important election of my lifetime. You know, I first voted in 1988. At 19 years old was the first time that I was able to vote, and I voted every single time. And this is the most motivated I've been. I'm voting not just for me, but I'm voting to defend those around me, to defend people in marginalized communities. I want the people around me to also feel that same passion to get out to vote, whatever it would be. But, you know, for our community and to bring back, you know, a sense of empathy and decency within, I want to see that in our government. I want children now to look at their leaders and be proud of them, you know, and I think that's important. I don't think we see that right now. And it's important for us to not only flip the presidency, but flip the Senate. You know, that's an important race here in Colorado as well. We need more seats on the Senate. If you look at the 40 senators have signed on to the IRC or that bill, that's not enough. 40 is not enough. We need 51. You know, we need to flip that so people have our backs. We all want to survive because we want to continue to support our communities around us, and it's not just the individual restaurants closing. It's that would close. It's the you know, the spider web of effect that would take throughout other industries. We're more important than just the four walls that we're in. But this is the most important election of my lifetime. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. And, you know, I just want to close with a comment as well. You know, you mentioned the Senate race, and John Hickenlooper, you know, he's a restaurant owner, Cooke Brewery. You know, that's something that we want our elected officials to have these kinds of experiences. We want to know that the people who are in these positions of power are going to be thinking about all of us, you know, and at the end of the day, we have the power to make that happen. So I just want to thank you guys all. This was such an important and enlightening conversation. And all of you have been so incredible. So thank you for your contributions to the discussion. The issues that we discussed tonight are not only things that will not go away overnight, but it's really crucial that we are all educated and involved in the fight for the independent restaurant industry. At Fireside at 5, we care deeply about improving our communities, and it's really nice to be surrounded by others who feel the same way. So, you know, with that in mind, I'd like to thank the Biden and Harris Colorado and small business teams who helped organize this great virtual event. If you haven't voted yet, please make sure to register and make a plan to vote. As a reminder, in Colorado, you can register and cast a ballot up through Election Day on November 3rd by appearing in person at a voter service and polling center. Thank you guys all again for tuning in tonight. My name is Gertie Harris, and this has been Fireside at 5. Make sure to check out our website for upcoming fireside chats and panels. Stay warm, and don't forget to vote.